Hello, Thursday. I'm being very brave today and talking about something that is actually extremely emotional for me. And it's been heavy on me, so I figure I guess I'm supposed to open my mouth. It's Thursday therapy, so here it goes. I'm trying to figure out the best way to start. And that would be that I can remember in high school, that was the time when the Braves were getting to go to the World Series. And y'all remember, if you were, that whole time frame when none of us were sleeping. It was those innings that went on forever. And it was exhausting. Everything was being dragged out. We'd get to school the next day. Everybody knew that you had just, didn't get to bed till 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, and the teachers didn't even care because it was, hey, the Braves go on the World Series. And there was a girl in class, and she was like, I don't understand. Baseball is so stupid. And I could still, I'm looking at her, and I'm like, what don't you like about baseball? And she really couldn't answer me, because the fact of the matter is, she said, well, I just don't like it. I don't know anything about it. So she made a statement that she didn't like baseball. She couldn't stand it. But the thing is, she knew absolutely nothing about it. And I think that so many of us do this with so many things in life, period, is making these big, broad, blind statements about things that we know absolutely nothing about. And, that was a long, long time ago. I'm 45 years old, graduated in 1993. And, seeing Rafael Belliard hit that home run, it still gives me goosebumps. I'm sorry. That's still one of the most beautiful moments in my life. I talk about baseball. I love baseball so much, to the point, at that point, later on, that going to a game and even seeing the Yankees come on the field, even though we're not supposed to like the Yankees, but because I love the history of baseball, watching those pinstripes, it got to me, because it was the history. It wasn't just the men on the field that day. It was the men that had been on the field before them. It's talking about, how great men stand on the shoulders of others. If you can look at it, anyway, that's baseball. I know she's talking about, she's crazy. Anyway, and I think so many of us do this, and I'm going to talk about something because I think the numbers of people in church are dropping. And I'm one of those people. And I have made blanket huge statements to myself and to some close friends. And a lot of it has to do with being something called church hurt. And I had a lot of help. If you know who Donna Posey is, she was not going to let go until she got me into my Trace D's weekend. And that was a godsend thing, because I'm a workaholic, and I was going to not be able to go, and then a snowstorm happened, and the restaurant shut down, and all of a sudden I'm at Trace D's. And I got to understand some things. But here's the example. I have been hurt by a woman in town worse than I've probably been hurt by anybody in my life. As in, like, therapy after therapy sessions. And I think what hurt the worst is that it wasn't that she just didn't like me, is that she went out trying to get others to not like me. And I still don't know why, even though I would reach out to her trying to understand. The answer wasn't there. And then she would, what I would call, hide behind her cloak of Christianity. And I would see her at, like events in school with, candy bar, come to our church. We are all loving. We are all great. You need to join us. And I'm like, you've gone out of your way to hurt me. And yet, not just that, but even after 20 years, if someone brings my name up to this day, you will still do something negative. The first thing out of your mouth is negative as a grown adult. And I've never done that. I've never purposely started my day thinking that I wanted to hurt someone. And I'm very proud of that. At 45, my goal in life has never been to purposely hurt someone. So that is why I am going to apologize to a group of people, because every time I would drive past that church, I would think that they were all like that. And I know that a lot of us do that. We judge a huge group. We judge a large event, if it, baseball, rugby, which I still don't quite understand I'm still trying to figure that out, by the actions of one, by the actions of two, and that's not fair. So I'm sorry. And over the past couple of years, I've had the opportunity to walk around this church quite a bit. And I've seen the other people that go in and out, and they are fantastic people. And I know them, and I love them. And it has been very emotional for me to realize that she does not represent that church. And that one person does not represent that religion. She does not represent everyone who calls themselves a Christian. And I'm really embarrassed. I'm really ashamed of myself to say that for 20 years, I, in the back of my head, have thought that that is how everybody at her church or everybody who claimed to be of that religion acted. I'm sorry. And it wasn't this jazz church. There's another person in town who, calls himself a preacher, and yet every word that seems to spew out of his mouth is hateful toward other people. And so every time I would drive past that church, I would think everybody in that church is the same way. And then I did an event there, and I realized that I loved everybody else there, and they were peaceful. And they asked me how I was, even though he never did. It was unfair to them, and it was unfair. And then I remember I was outside of one of these churches, and I watched the preacher close up. It was the last car, and the door gets locked, and I thought, I would not want to be held responsible for all of the actions of the people going to church there. And especially if they're out into the community screaming, that's where I go, and then you hear hate or negative or malice come out of their mouth. And then there's that intelligent part of me that says, well, they're not going there because they're perfect, Carrie. They're going there because they do need help, because they do realize that there is more. But there's always going to be those few that think that they have the right to go out and to point fingers. And I have a story for that. I grew up in a church in town, and my mom was the Sunday school teacher for almost 10 years. And the church next door, my best friend went to, and I used to always look out the window so I could wave at her. And there was an elder in the church, and he said, what are you doing? And I said, well, I'm looking for my best friend so I can wave at her. And he's like, oh, that's sad. She's going to hell. You're not going to see her in eternity. You tell a 12-year-old girl that when you're a head honcho in a church that her best friend is going to hell and you're not going to see her? So we stopped going. It's a good thing I'm a nerd. And I started learning about all religions. And I did a lot of research. And guess what I found out? almost all of them, have a very big thing in common. Love one another. Be nice. I found this cool Buddhist thing at Community Helping Place a couple weeks ago. And somebody was like, oh, it's a Buddhist God. And I'm like, no, it's a belief system like Confucianism and Taoism. They don't worship him as a God. It's just it's a way of life. It's peaceful. It's about balance. It's about simplicity. And when someone, I hear, I have new friends that come into town, and I have a new friend, and they're like, oh, she's Seventh-day Adventist. I'm like, do you know anything about that religion? Well, no, but. So in your religion, you're quick to judge. How about you set the example? I thought about this a lot today because I was in the yard of this church where this woman who has hurt me so painfully, she had an opportunity to apologize, and she acted as though she did nothing wrong. I'm sorry for all of you there that I thought were like her. That would be like thinking that everyone that goes to one town is the same, or everyone that is 5 foot tall is going to act the same, or everyone that works at Walmart is going to behave the same. We're all different. And I'm vowing to have a better open mind when I go places, to not judge a church or a group or a sport by the actions of one. And that's your Thursday therapy. And I do have a cool new fountain in the back. Love yourself. Love your neighbor. And if you really want people to follow you and to go to your church, set the example. It's not about you going to them. At some point, they'll come to you and they'll say, what are you doing? I want to be a part of that. Love you.